Back in the USSR. That's where we are going today in this video. So, as you have already understood from the intro, we are going back to USSR. What I mean by that? What I mean is that in previous comments in my previous videos that I did about Russian albums, I said that I'm going to make a video about the very albums that I listened to as a kid. A little background is that I was born in Georgia in USSR in the town called Tbilisi. So, you know how is sung in this song, and Georgia is always on my mind. So, I was born in Georgia. And as a 7-year-old kid, when I began listening to the Beatles, I had only 5 albums available. As of course there were many others available, but I'm talking from the point of view of a 7-8-year-old kid. Now, there are 2 albums of the Beatles that my mother bought me. One was given to me by my aunt, my mother's sister, and 2 by Paul McCartney, solo Paul McCartney albums, which were also bought by me and my brother. So I'm going to show you all 5 of them, the exact very albums from my early childhood. Okay, so the very first album by the Beatles that I ever played and that I ever had in my life is this one, the Beatles Love Songs. This is the very album that I had way back in 1988-89. This album has all my fingerprints all over, my scratches, my tears and everything. So, this is the front. This was bought by my aunt in 1977 in Bulgaria and given to me in 1988. This is the gatefold. Now, this gatefold has many damages. First of all, here in the middle it is glued by a tape, which I tore and I glued by myself. The second is here under John Lennon's picture there is a damage, there is a dirt, because I touched it very often. And here the back is also glued with a tape, which I did. I wanted to prevent it from being damaged. Now, the albums themselves. This is LP number 1. And here, this one, I don't know if you can see it or not. I'm sure you can see it. There is a scratch. There's a big screen. Yeah, you can see it very well. You see, there's a huge scratch, the round scratch. On the songs Yesterday, I'll Follow the Sun, I Need You, Girl in My Life, Words of Love, and Here and There and Everywhere. This scratch I did when I think it was 1989. The thing is that when the needle was playing, I wanted with my hand to pick it up. But I did accidentally, I just touched it while it was moving. So I moved the needle, and that's why you have the oval round scratch. So this is the scratch that I did as a kid. And I love it. That's my first LP that I ever listened. And Yesterday and Girl are 2 first songs that I've ever listened to. So, this album I have in my collection for more than 30 years. And this is the direct ticket to my childhood. So, now I'm going to show you the LP number 2. Which is a little bit in a better condition, because I listened mostly the LP number 1. And it also has some scratches and also have some of my fingerprints, but overall this is in a better condition than the other one. Because I never had a patience to get to the side number 4 as a child. I was stuck with Girl, Here Then Everywhere, Something, and Yesterday. Okay. But after 2 years of listening to this album, me and my brother, we already knew everything about this album, and we wanted to listen to something new. And my mother, in 1989, she understood that we are becoming a good fans of the Beatles, and mostly we didn't understand what they were singing about because we didn't speak English at that time, and we wanted to learn English thanks to the Beatles. And in order to keep that desire, she bought us another 2 albums. And you all very well know which albums I'm talking about, since in Soviet Union there were available only 2 albums. The Russian pressing of A Hard Day's Night and A Taste of Honey. So, the first thing that I want to say about this album, this is the first album that my mother bought me and second album in my life. And the first thing that I did, I made a scratch here on Paul McCartney's head. And then I wanted to fill it with a fill pen. Now, over the years, the printing faded away, but the pen remained. So now we can see a black scratch on Paul McCartney's head. This is also glued by tape, which I did as a kid. I wanted to keep them intact. And the thing is that this one was pressed in Tbilisi, as you can read it here. On the label, it says here, this is the word, I don't know if you can see it or not, but the word here means in which town it was printed. Now, mine was printed in Tbilisi, and Georgian pressings were the only ones who kept the original dark blue color of A Hard Day's Night, because all the others were light blue. So this is the album that my mother bought me in 1989 when I was a kid. Now, the second album that my mother bought me is A Taste of Honey. And this album, which, yeah, this is my damage. This was torn, I believe, in the first or second day when it was bought. And also here it has this tape. And also, this album is a third one in my life, and I have it also like 29 years ago. And as you can look, and you can see it here on the album, it has a lot of scratches. As a kid, I didn't care about the LP, and I listened to it every day, the whole day. I listened to it like, I don't know, 10 times in a day, and I wanted everybody to listen to it. And what I noticed as a kid, that all the songs here are taken from 1963 and 64, but the picture is taken from 1968 from White Album. Had to be interrupted once again. So these are the 1968 pictures from White Album, but the songs are from 63, 64. So that was always, just kind of stand out for me. So this is my third Beatles album. It's rather bad condition in comparison to the first 2, because I listen to this album very, very often. Now, the next album that I want to talk about is something that I found on the flea market as a kid. This is the Russian pressing of John Lennon Imagine album. Also in a very bad condition. I didn't buy it, it was given to me as a gift. And also I got this sleeve of Paul McCartney's Wings. These are 9 songs from Band on the Run album. This was the Soviet pressing of Band on the Run, and this was the cover. It wasn't the original cover. So I have only the cover of Band on the Run, and I have only the album of Imagine, so I keep them together. So this kind of semi-album. This one wasn't bought, it was just found. So the next album that was bought by my mother is this one, Paul McCartney Back in the USSR. So this is actually the first pressing of 1989 or maybe it's a second pressing, I don't remember. But also I made here a plastic strip in order to protect it. It's relatively a bad condition because I love this album very much and I listened to it 100 times. And this on a red label, and it also was made in Tbilisi, Georgian pressing. So it's a very bad condition, lots of scratches, very used, but still playable, and I really love it because all the scratches are done by me and not by somebody else. So this is my fourth Beatles album. So the next album that was bought, it was bought by my brother, Flowers in the Dirt by Paul McCartney. This is the original Soviet pressing, and this one omits one song. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 songs. The last one is omitted. And also in a very bad condition, and the song which I love the most, you can see it here, the scratches, unplayable song. This is this one. It's my favorite song on the album, and I listened to it so many times during the 1990 that it was impossible to listen to it anymore. So this is number 68 from 2,000 copies, and my Back in USSR is number 8 from 3,000 copies, which were pressed in 1989 in Tbilisi. And actually, my A Taste of Honey album is number 64 from 2,000 copies, and A Hard Day's Night is number 65 from 2000. So they are numbered in their own way. The numbers are relatively low, so it's very good. This one is number 8 from 3000, which were released in Tbilisi. So this one is 68 from 2000. And it's a very interesting story with this album is that I was in a kind of fight with my brother at the time, and he bought it and he didn't give it to me to listen because I have an older brother. He's 6 years older than me. So he was listening to this album for the first time without me, and then he came out and talked to me and he started singing the songs, in order to make me angry. I still remember it as yesterday. So it was in 1990. But then we listened to this album together, of course. It's a very good album. We love it very much. And this is the copy that we bought, that my brother bought, and we listened to together. And the last album, the last album that I bought in Soviet Union before it broke up, is this copy. This is Indian copy, but I bought it in Soviet Union in 1990. We just found it when we were driving from one city to another. We just bought it. It's not a gatefold, but still, it's an Indian pressing. It's a rare pressing, and we found it in Soviet Union in our town. And it was kind of interesting what happened, why it was there. We didn't have time to find out or ask many questions. So these 5 albums that got me into the Beatles and that made me want to learn English. So once again, back in the USSR. Goodbye.